The cold metal snapped around her wrist before she could react. Moments ago, she was in control, barking orders, demanding obedience. Now, under flashing red and blue lights, her face paled as the officer tightened the cuffs. The woman she tried to detain wasn't just anybody. And that realization hit too late. But what happened next would shock even those who thought they'd seen it all. But let's start from the beginning. The air between them grew tense, thick with unspoken challenges. Camille's grip tightened around her phone as she held Harris's gaze. The woman's posture screamed arrogance, feet planted, chin lifted, ready to exert control she didn't actually have. "Last chance," Harris barked. "Turn around and put your hands on the car." Camille didn't move. She had seen this before. Security guards and fake authority figures pushing their limits, testing how far they could go before someone called their bluff. Harris wasn't making an arrest. She was asserting dominance, hoping Camille would fold. The crowd edged closer, phones discreetly raised. Eyes darted between Camille and Harris, some faces tense with concern, others eager for confrontation. The wrong word, the wrong movement. This could spiral fast. "You're harassing me," Camille stated, her voice even but firm. "I suggest you step back." Harris scoffed, shifting her stance. "I suggest you comply before I escalate this further." Camille almost laughed at the absurdity. "Escalate?" she echoed. "On what charge? Looking too successful for your liking?" A flicker of something flashed across Harris's face. Irritation, maybe uncertainty, but she doubled down. "I told you," she snapped. "You match the description of a suspect." Camille raised her phone higher. "Oh, really? Then describe this suspect. Height, weight, clothing, let's hear it." Harris hesitated. "You can't, can you?" Camille pressed. "Because there is no suspect, just a black woman standing by a nice car." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Harris's jaw clenched. "You think that phone's gonna save you?" she sneered. Camille's expression hardened. "No," she said. "The law will." For the first time, Harris shifted uncomfortably. But she wasn't backing down. Not yet. Instead, she reached for her radio, lips curling into a smirk. "Let's see what the real cops have to say about that," she said. Camille exhaled slowly. She had been in enough courtrooms to know. When people like Harris felt power slipping, they grasped for something bigger to wield. But Harris had no idea who she was dealing with. The balance of power shifted in an instant. The confidence that had fueled Harris moments ago drained from her face as she stared at the card in Camille's hand. The neatly embossed letters, the weight of the title, senior partner, civil rights attorney. Each word landed like a hammer blow. The gathered crowd murmured, phones raised, capturing every detail. Harris's bravado cracked, but she wasn't ready to admit defeat. Not yet. "This is ridiculous," she scoffed, though her voice lacked the same bite. "I was just doing my job." Camille stepped closer, unshaken. "Your job? Your job is mall security, not law enforcement. You don't have the authority to stop me, let alone order me to put my hands on a car. What you did was attempt an unlawful detainment under the false pretense of authority." Harris's hand hovered near her stun gun, fingers twitching. A reflex, grasping for control. But Camille was watching her closely. One wrong move and this would escalate beyond verbal sparring. "You're exaggerating," Harris muttered, voice lower now, barely audible over the buzzing tension in the air. Camille arched a brow. "Am I? Or are you realizing that you just made the biggest mistake of your career?" The crowd's murmurs grew louder. People weren't just watching. They were judging. Harris had thrived on intimidation, on catching people off guard, on making them feel small. But now it was her under the microscope, her authority being questioned, her actions recorded. "You don't have a case," Harris said, desperation creeping in. "I didn't arrest you." "But you tried." Camille countered. You ordered me to comply, attempted to use force, and falsely presented yourself as law enforcement. That's impersonation. Harris's lips parted, but no words came. She wasn't used to being challenged, certainly not by someone who knew the law better than she did. You like power, don't you? Camille continued. You like feeling in control. But here's the problem. You were never in control. And now you're going to face real consequences for what you just did. A bead of sweat traced down Harris's temple. She finally realized this wasn't going away. Not today. Not ever. And for the first time, she was the one who felt trapped. The moment the silver cuffs clicked around her wrists, Harris's entire demeanor shifted. Gone was the smugness, the air of superiority. Now her face was a mask of pure disbelief, her eyes darting between Camille, the growing crowd, and the officers restraining her. "You can't be serious!" she shrieked, jerking against the firm grip of the arresting officer. "This is a misunderstanding!" Detective Ray Johnson didn't flinch. "You misunderstood your authority," he said coolly. "Now you're going to deal with the consequences." Harris shook her head frantically. "I was just trying to do my job." Camille's gaze remained steady, her arms still crossed. "No, you were trying to abuse your job." The crowd pressed in closer, the weight of dozens of recording phones capturing every second. Murmurs turned into murmurs of approval, some even laughing at Harris's pathetic attempts to defend herself. "You can't arrest me," Harris protested, panic creeping into her voice. This is ridiculous." Johnson exhaled sharply, unamused. "You're being arrested for impersonating an officer and unlawful detainment. Both are actual crimes. So yeah, we can arrest you." Harris's breath hitched. The reality of her situation was sinking in, but she clung desperately to denial. "She's lying," she blurted, jerking her head toward Camille. "This woman, she's trying to set me up." Camille let out a humorless chuckle. "Set you up? You did this to yourself." Harris turned to the crowd now, as if hoping for sympathy. "This is insane. I was just trying to keep the mall safe." Johnson stepped closer, his expression hard. "By harassing an innocent woman? By ordering her to turn around and put her hands on the cars like she was a criminal?" Harris stammered, but there was no way out. "Save it," Johnson muttered, nodding to his partner. The second officer tightened the cuffs and began reciting her rights. Camille watched Harris's face drain of color as the weight of her actions finally hit. This was no longer just an uncomfortable confrontation. This was her reality now. As Harris was led toward the squad car, Camille met her eyes one last time. "The mistake," she said, voice cold as steel, "was thinking you could get away with it." The video of the incident went viral within hours. News outlets picked up the story, dissecting every detail. Camille became a public symbol of resilience, her name trending alongside hashtags calling for accountability. Harris, on the other hand, lost everything: her job, her reputation, and her freedom. A week later, Camille stood in a courtroom, watching as Harris faced the judge. She had taken a plea deal, but would still face consequences. Outside, reporters clamored for a statement. Camille took a deep breath and faced the cameras. "This wasn't just about me," she said firmly. "This was about the abuse of power, about holding people accountable, no matter their uniform. No one is above the law." A round of applause erupted from the crowd, mixed with chants of support. Camille walked away, her heels clicking confidently against the pavement. Justice had been served. And Harris? She had finally realized her mistake. But too late to undo the damage. Triumph, inspiration. A warning to all who abuse their power.